that the two veterans that went in there showed well, and we saw some stuff from Jackson and from Mike, and of course Deontay will be back in the mix this week. That shows that they have a lot of potential. Yep. I think that would be ideal after the game, going into that final week before the game, to have a general idea. There won't be a lot of information that we'll gain next week from practices in terms of that competition. So again, it's not set in stone that when this game ends, we'll name the roster and name the starters, but I think we'll probably have a pretty good idea of what direction we're headed for week 1. Yeah, today he'll be able to go. We signed him and we'll get him up to speed. And again, he's shown well over the last couple of years. Duffner had him for a couple of years as well. So there's a relationship there they have with the guys, so we know what he's capable of. I know he had a good workout the other day. He's eager to get going. He'll provide some good competition there at those defensive end spots. So we're excited to get a look at him.
How was Jackson, bro? And what did you see when you went back and watched Friday's game?
Yeah, I think when you talk about Jackson, it's kind of talking about the rookies as a whole. There are some progress being made in terms of the fundamentals and the technique that you want, but it's just got to be more consistent. And again, it's good. He's moving in the right direction. We're just looking overall as the whole rookie class, just more consistency from the whole group, and he certainly fits right in there with that group.
How did Darius Hodge do? You guys obviously had him in there earlier the other night. Were you happy with what you saw from him again?
Yeah, he had the snap early on where he was able to hit fits, and they didn't block him on the play, but it's still good to get there and make contact with the quarterback and affect the play. So again, he's got to continue to show, got to continue to make progress, got to continue to be consistent. It's not just in the pass game; you got to show up in the run game as well. But I love his attitude. I love what he brings to the table. He's continued to make progress. This next week will be big for a lot of these rookies to play in this Miami game and just show that consistency through 3 weeks.
Coach, you're very personable. You connect with your guys.
I appreciate that.
And it's saying that because as the time comes to start cutting guys, is that anguish still there because you develop a fondness for certain guys and you really like them and just simply maybe a numbers game? That's still a tough part of this.
Oh yeah, it's no fun at all. And even just with the 5 guys yesterday, they're all hard workers, man. I mean, they made their imprint on this team. They did what we asked them to do. You just got to make these tough decisions. It's not fun giving that information out. They're understanding generally, but again, yeah, that's certainly one of the worst parts of the job. But it's just the nature of the business.
How many of your cuts are based on the film, and how many cuts are based on those numbers?
It's now where the roster's at. A lot of it's numbers, and that's a good thing. That just shows you the depth of our team as we continue to build this thing. And it's not, God, this guy just can't do it. There's not a lot of those situations going on with us. It's, all right, we got to pull a number from somewhere. Where do we got to pull it from? Sometimes it's just depth going into this next game. Maybe it's a guy who's maybe not the 81st best player. Maybe he's the 75th best player on the roster, but just because of the position, you maybe have too much depth there, and so you got to make that decision. So, again, it's the group that we just released. We're all good guys. They did what we want them to do. That's going to be the case probably coming up here in the next week as well. But that's not the fun part of the job. Just more consistency. It's again, he's making improvements whether they're seen or not in a lot of different areas of his game. Sometimes it's you don't want that to happen because we wanted to win the game. We wanted to convert those third downs. But it's good for a guy to say, hey, this is tough. This is real NFL. This is going against a real defense, and I got to make these plays. And again, he's shown well in a lot of the practices. And the expectations are high for him.
How much of the struggle might be just getting acclimated to the game speed without community involved? Is that still an issue at this point?
That's hard to say. It's possible. Again, we just continue to make progress and strides on offense, and he's part of that mix to make all those guys better over the course of this week.
Do you think he still has confidence in himself?
Oh, I do. Yeah, I don't think he's short on confidence, and that's a good thing. And guys are building him up, and just talking to TB and all these guys all struggled coming in as a rookie. The expectations are so high that you expect him to come in and just be a star right out the gate. But it takes work. You got to put in the work, and that consistency comes over time. And by no means are we down on Jamar. He's just going through some of the things rookies go through in training camp, and we expect him to improve over the course of this week.
Being a rookie, we've all kind of thought, oh yeah, number 5 overall pick starter week 1. How much do you look into maybe early in the season a bigger role for a guy like Auden Tate that can help alleviate some of that pressure from Jamar and beyond?
Well, I think that is what will help Jamar, is we have a lot of places we can turn for the help too as he comes along. And again, we have high expectations for him right out the gate. But T and TB have been as consistent of players as we've had all training camp. Sometimes it just goes unstated because they're so consistent, so dependable. You forget how great of a job that they've done. And then you got guys like Auden Tate and Mike Thomas who've been in the system for a long time, and Trenton Irwin and Trent. All these guys are doing such a nice job for us. Our tight ends are consistent. No one ever talks about them. They're always where they need to be. They do a great job protecting, run game, catching the ball when you throw it to them. And so, again, we feel fortunate there to have that depth at all the skill groups to where you can take a young guy and let him acclimate. That's a tough word for me to say. Acclimate to life in the league, and his skills will show off here pretty soon.
Beyond Joe Burrow and Trey Hopkins, have you formulated a plan of how much you want to see the other starters on Sunday?
Not yet. Give it a couple days here. We'll get through these 2 practices, and then we'll make the final decisions with the 7-day week here. We really want to go into player day off this Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will be more of a game week format for us, getting ready for a Sunday game. So it's good to put our guys through that full week there. So these are kind of 2 training camp days here for us. Once we get to the player off day, we'll make those decisions on how we're going to approach the rest of the week with those guys and who's going to play.
Did Osai's knee injury happen in that first preseason game?
It did.
Was it on that same play as the rest?
That part I don't know.
This might be more of a Duke question, but I'm curious your perspective on it. How much with the new practice squad rules and the ability to move up and down on game day easier is getting cut not as big of a deal as it was as long as you keep them in-house? Just because they're kind of expanded with the rosters, you can kind of get them up easier, right?
I would imagine the players still feel like they get cut, but it does give you greater flexibility at a lot of different positions for guys maybe that you like, that you keep on the practice squad, and know that there's still an opportunity for them to get up those 2 games a year. That part does make it interesting. I like it because you have more accessibility to players that you want to see. And so again, it's I don't know how you look at it, but for me it is helpful.
This is kind of a housekeeping question too, but you got 2 solid weeks between the finale and the opener.
Yep.
Whereas in the past, it's been 9, 10 days,
Right.
kind of harried. Do you expect maybe, and it's just interested to get the coach's perspective on it, I think that maybe there might be a little bit more activity with the roster because of those extra, 4 days to play with?
That's hard to say. You're going to evaluate the final wire and see what makes your team better and what fits. That part doesn't change. It is different. You got more time to get guys. If you were to add a guy to get them acclimated because you have that extra period like you're talking about, it's really a bye week. It's what it feels like. So it'll be different. We haven't done it yet. So I'll probably give you a better answer once that's done to tell you for next year how that feels. But it will be a different week than years past.
A lot of players, obviously, at the back end of the roster, 45 on the 53, make it because of special teams. How extensive are your talks at this point of camp with Darren about guys that can fill those?
Of course. He's a part of every conversation. It's you talk about offense, you talk about defense, and then you turn to Darren. Because a lot of times that's the deciding factor at a ton of positions: running back, tight end, receiver, DB. Linebacker, all those things factor in, and Darren's a big part of that. He knows how it fits with the team. So again, that's obviously a huge piece. The sooner that the young players realize that, the better usually for them. A lot of guys think they're just trying to make it on offense or defense, and it's usually a wake-up call real fast that special teams play such a big role in that. But Darren does such an excellent job of making sure that's communicated to them right from the get-go in training camp, that they know, a lot of times when you make the teams because of special teams. And so again, that's a big part of it. More of the same. He's been really consistent the last 2 weeks. Been pleased with that consistency. It's helping our offense. I think those around have been more consistent as well. And so again, just put another good week of work on tape, and we'll feel like we're making good progress for week 1. Again, more positives. We're just looking for overall consistency is where we need to take the next step.
Coach, when you look at Auden Tate, seems like every so often he always makes a catch that makes you shake your head. Do you ever get tired of this?
No, it's expected. You see a one-on-one with him on 3rd down, and you throw him the ball and he makes the catch, and no one's surprised. There's a lot of enthusiasm on the sidelines. It's a great clip. It's probably my favorite clip from the game. in terms of the guys that are on the sideline. It's not a surprise reaction. It's a genuine, we're happy because Auden worked his tail off. He made a play, shockingly. We know it's not shockingly because he always does that. So, again, it's just part of what Auden does. It's why he's a big part of what we do on this team. You always got to find a role for him because he's going to show up and produce. And, love coaching guys like Auden.
Coach, would it be fair to say that the two guards you start on this Sunday, would that be what you're looking for the opener? Or is it still, you think you
Trying to pin down the starters on me. We saw good things from those two guys, and they're veterans. They're here for a reason because they're consistent. They know what we're looking for. So was happy with most of their play on the game. We'll just continue to evaluate it for this week, though.
You talked at the beginning of camp how you weren't going to do a lot of deep stuff, on the soft tissue injuries early. Are you still in that ramp-up process, or is it to the point now where?
Well, I think part of it is game and practice. In practices, we started to push the ball down the field a little bit more, whether it's individual or team stuff. In the games, we want to be efficient, and there's certain things we're looking for. It's been mostly run game. Again, we get good pass work in practice, but now you get to work against different fronts, different personnel in the run game. So these first 2 weeks, that was the biggest emphasis. What kills you is when you get behind the chains on penalties and stuff like that forces you to throw the ball. But really our intent these first 2 weeks was let's get a bunch of these runs on tape, be able to coach off different looks, different defenses. And again, that's really where the preseason is so valuable for us. You got a new offensive line coach coming in here. We coach against our front every single day. We see the same defensive players every day. It's been great to go against Tampa Bay and Washington, and then Miami this week will provide a different front as well.
Was that a hold on Spain on the screen early?
Oof. You tell me. That's a tough way to start.
How do you guys grade that in-house grading on that?
You just got to be careful in space because it's more visible. That's the biggest thing. They called it. When you're in space like that at the point of attack, all eyes are on you. Whether the guy falls down or not, it can oftentimes look like a hold, maybe when it's not. But again, it's good that happens in the preseason, so you can say, all right, whether it was or wasn't, here's what happened, here's why they called it. Let's make sure that we're careful in the future. So it's probably a good learning lesson for all of us.
That technique, Zach, his arms extended and, they're extended.
Yeah, it's just when guys end up on the ground, that's usually what they see. Bigger guys in space blocking little guys, oftentimes you're going to get in tough body positions. And again, there's not a lot that I was upset about with Quinn, but they called it, and we got to regroup and move on from there.
How big of a factor is the guard competition and the uncertainty there? Does that go into the decision to play Joe?
No, it doesn't.
How do you think, and I'm sorry, Dad.
I get you saying.
I just wonder what your thought was on Jackson and how he seemed like he took a step, how he put it.
I think there's been some positives there, but just overall the consistency's got to continue to improve.
What have you thought about Billy playing? How has he maybe changed with Fraser?
Yeah, he's gotten great work, in there as the starting center. So again, Billy does a lot of positive things for us, and he steps in there and doesn't blink and does a lot of good things, gets us directed. I think that Billy's had a solid camp.
Coach, you got two good kickers, but how excited are you maybe to see just how much that boom and Evan McPherson's leg is from
Yeah.
60 yards?
I don't ever want to put us in that position because we want to be scoring touchdowns, obviously. But again, we ran the ball on 3rd and 15, and we kicked a field goal there. So it's good to see kind of a 50-yarder in there to kind of see what we're capable of. So that's part of the preseason as well. I don't think he has any jitters, to be honest with you. Seeing him in pregame, seeing him in practice, you'd like to get a kicker, get the jitters out of the way to see how they handle that. I haven't noticed that with him, so it probably wasn't necessary. But I would say both those guys, the competition has brought out the best in both these. Austin has done a fantastic job. He really misses in practice. I think in pregame, those guys were like 29-30 the other day. So, it really has been spectacular competition. They're both great kickers in this league, and that's been really fun to watch.
Don't expect you to
Were you
give
trying
us.
to set him up at the end of the half? Were you trying to set him up at the end of the half? It looked like maybe if you got to.
I was hopeful that we were going to break that run for 16 yards and get the first down and go score. That's what I was hoping for.
Could have had it. Could have tried to 60.
Could have been.
I know you can't give us specific names, but in your mind, how close are you to? How many of those 53 are locked in your mind already?
That part is hard to say. You know, you want to give these guys this last week of opportunities. You never know. Guys can show out in this third game to where it's hard to say no to them on the roster. And so, again, we don't have to make those decisions until the following Tuesday. So we'll utilize these next week of practices, this next game, to fully evaluate the roster and then make that decision.
Will be on Chrisman will be on the field today.
Yeah.
And be available to play Sunday afternoon.
Oh, we'll see. You know, it's his first NFL practice, you know, going forward this week. So we'll ease him into it and then make those decisions later.
One more question? All good?
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, sir.